So, just how prevalent is the problem of kids accessing explicit adult content? As parents, we'd like to think that it doesn't happen very often, but actually, there's a whole load of surveys out there that show that it's becoming more and more uh, normality. A recent survey by IOL Lifestyle found that of 800 young people, they found that most teenage boys view it 2 to 3 times a week on their phone or bedroom computer, and two-thirds of those between 11 and 13 had viewed pornography. A recent study in the UK found that 50% of 11 to 14-year-olds had viewed it. That's according to the Daily Mail. And the Daily Mail also reported that 1 in 3 10-year-olds have stumbled upon it online, and that the largest group of internet pornography consumers, amazingly, is aged 12 to 17. So we'd like to think that our kids aren't looking at it, but it's becoming something that they're either becoming exposed to by stumbling upon it or perhaps seeking it out. So let's look at those two ways that kids are accessing it. One is stumbling upon it, and how do they stumble upon it? There's actually loads of different ways. The first could be innocent searches in search engines. If your child was to search for big girls' toys, that would result in some explicit searches. Also, companies buy up domain names, web addresses that are similar to existing well known addresses, so that if somebody types in the address incorrectly, just slightly, they'll end up on their website, and on their website, they have links to other websites, basically adverts, and those links can lead to very explicit websites. Also, unfortunately, some children's brand names are sometimes used in adult movies. Brands such as My Little Pony and Pokemon do feature in some explicit adult movies. Also, email spam. If your child has an email address, then the chances are that they're going to start getting email spam, and some of those emails can have quite innocuous subject lines, but when your child clicks on it, then inside in the email could be a link to a very explicit website. If your child is using social media, for example, Twitter or Tumblr, Twitter, obviously, we've all heard of Twitter, used by celebrities. It's absolutely brilliant, actually, as a social network and a great source of information. What most people don't realize is that there's an awful lot of explicit adult content in there. And if you were to just go searching for it, you'd find it very quickly. Also, Tumblr is a huge blogging network, very popular with teens. And in there as well, within that network, there's very explicit content. Messaging apps. If your child uses messaging apps such as Kik Messenger, WhatsApp, then their friends could message them a link to an adult website. And also, your child, if he or she receives text messages, then a friend could also circulate a link to an adult video clip. And then YouTube, well, just by browsing YouTube, you can find very explicit thumbnails, and then the videos. They wouldn't be hardcore explicit, but they're just stuff that you wouldn't want your child watching. Unfortunately, there's also a phenomenon where people are deliberately adding explicit video clips into the middle of quite innocent children's cartoons, so that when the kids are watching the cartoons, then this explicit adult content appears in the middle of it, and that can be very upsetting and distressing. Also, how do kids find it deliberately? Well, firstly, through search engines, searching for explicit terms, or even just searching out of curiosity using a mild term like boob or boobs can bring back some very explicit images. Directly entering the website URL into the address bar, so if they knew of a website address, but also within social media, deliberately searching for it. When I was talking about stumbling upon it earlier, sometimes maybe if they were on Twitter, then something might come into their newsfeed that they weren't expecting. Maybe their friends had retweeted something. But here it's actively searching for it on Twitter or Tumblr. What this means is that when we're thinking about how to block and restrict our kids from accessing adult content, we've got to think about how they stumble upon it and how they deliberately try and find it. And we need to address those two things, and we will be in this training course. The other thing is, well, what devices are being used? Now, a couple of years ago, it was sufficient to make sure that the family computer was in the dining room, so that when you're passing by, you could look over their shoulder and see that they weren't accessing anything they shouldn't. those days are gone, because now our kids have iPhones, tablets, they've got Xbox, all of which are internet enabled. If they have an iPod music player, they've got the internet on it, and they can easily get access to adult content. So worldwide, 51% of adult content is accessed on the desktop and 49% on smartphones. That's from the Inquisitor. And I would say that this is just going to shift more towards being accessed on smartphones. So when we're thinking about how to restrict access, we also need to think beyond the computer. And a few years ago, it was sufficient to maybe have NetNanny or some kind of parental control installed on your computer. Now, that's no good, because NetNanny installed in your computer does nothing to prevent your child accessing something on the tablet or on a iPod or on the Xbox. So we need to think much bigger. And in the next lesson, we're going to outline the blueprint, your roadmap for restricting access so that kids don't stumble upon it, they can't seek it deliberately, and also it covers mobile and PCs.